Hello Year 6 and welcome to today's maths lesson. Now for today we are going to be building on the stuff that we've been doing all week, and we're going to be now comparing fractions, percentages and decimals. Okay, so we've got looking at the three different types and comparing them, working out which is biggest, which is smallest, and solving problems with them. So the best way for us to do that is to get into my screen and then I can talk through stuff with you. Okay, here we go, let's go. Hello. And like we said, we are looking at comparing fractions, decimals and percentages, so kind of building on what we looked at yesterday. So hopefully you remember that yesterday we looked at this and we realised that if this is a full whole and it's split in 10 parts and each one is worth 1/10. And then when we're looking at this one, which is a decimal one, if it's between 0 and 10 and we split it into 10 parts and each of one of those is 0.1, so we've got 0.1, 2, 0.3, 0.4, 0.5, 0.6, 0.7, 0.8, 0.9. Now here, when we think about percentages, what we are saying is that down at this end we've got 0, and then a full whole, when we think about percentages, is 100%. Okay, so if I'm highlighting this little bit again, I've already done it, this little bit, then we're splitting this 100% into 10 parts here, and 100, hopefully if you split it by 10, you'll agree with me that it's 10%, okay? So what we can see from here is that 1/10 is the same as 0.1, which is the same as 10%. Okay, that's a fact, that's worth remembering. Okay, 10% is the same as 1/10, it's the same as 0.1. Let's look at this one. See, when we did this one, we split it in half, so we imagine that we've got this full whole, and we split it into, if that's one part, I know my lines aren't great, and that's another part, and they're both parts equal, and we're splitting it into 2 parts, which is a half, and we agreed that each one of these was worth 0.1, so it's 0.5. Now here we're thinking about decimals, and that's 0, and that's 100%. Hopefully you'll agree with me, if we split 100% into 2 parts, it will be 50%. So another one that's worth remembering is that 50% is the same as a half, which is the same as 0.5. Next one. On this one, we split them all into 5 parts, and we realised that that means we've got 1/5. We realised that that was the same as 0.2, and when we think about our decimals, if we know that each of these is 10%, then that is 20%. In the same way, if we split that 100% into 5 parts, 100 divided by 5 will get us to 20. So 20% is the same as 1/5. And then this last one, which was a bit funny, a quarter, so we split a full thing into 4 parts, so we get a quarter. We realise that that's the same as 0.25. Now on this bottom one, if I'm looking at percentages again, if I split 100 into 4 parts, what I'm left with is 25%, okay? So the final one that we need to remember is that a quarter is the same as 25%. So that leaves us with these facts that it's worth remembering. So 1/10 is 0.1, which is also 10%. 1/2 is 0.5, which is also 50%. Because I've split 100% into 2 parts. 1/4, what if I split 100% into 4 parts? I'm left with 25%. 1/100, if I split 100% into 100 parts, I'm left with 1%. 1/5, if I split 100 into 5 parts, I'm left with 20%. And then this one, 1/3, if I split 100 into 3 parts, I can't actually do it equally, and what I'm left with is like 33.33, and that goes on forever. Now, hopefully you will have noticed, oh, there's a pattern here, there's something that I can recognise. Well, when we're doing decimals, what we're doing is we're splitting 1 into different parts. When we're doing percentages, we're splitting 100 into different parts. So what we always find is that the percentage is always 100 times bigger than the decimal equivalent. If I did 0.1 times 100 and I moved it up twice, 1, 2, I get to 10. If I did 0.5 times 100, I move it up twice, 1, 2, I get to 50%. If I did 0.25 times 100, move it up to 1, 2, 1, 2, I get to 25, okay? It's always 100 times bigger. So, let's use this fact, okay, to help us. I'm just gonna take a quick snipper of that. snipping tool. If you've got a Windows laptop or whatever, snipping tool is amazing, okay, amazing. So, if I use this, oh, sorry, maybe I've done this before, but it's nice to see you doing the kind of stuff that I see. So questions that you're going to get today. You are going to be asked, you're going to be given something like this that will have some fractions, some decimals, some percentages, and you've got to put them in order. So every one of them's got questions like this, ready, steady, or go. So before we can do anything, we need to make them all the same thing. So I would not make them all fractions, okay, because that can be quite tricky. What I would make them all is either decimals or percentages. So I'm going to go for percentages. So if I've got 3/4, now do I know what 1/4 is as a percentage? Yeah, it's 25%. So 3/4 is going to be 25, 50, 75%. Okay. 1/5. Well, 1/5 as a percentage, as it says down here, is 20%. So I'm going to put that in here. 0.7 as a percentage, like I said before, we're making it 10 times bigger. 100 times bigger. So 1, 2, right underneath. So then my 0 is going to go here. So that as a percentage is 70%. And then 44% is already a percentage. Okay, and I want it to see you set it out like this in your book. So the first one, write it out is on the question. Second one, convert them all to something the same. And then final one is where you can put them in order. So 20% is going to be my smallest. Then it's going to be 44%. And then it's going to be 70%. And then it's going to be 75%. Okay, and I want to see it set out like this on your work today. Let's do one more of these and then we'll finish. So 1 3/5. I'm going to make them all decimals this time, I think. Make them all decimals. So 1 3/5. Now, 1 3/5 means that my decimal is going to be a whole number. Okay, we kind of did this yesterday. And 3/5, well, 1/5 is 0.2, so 3/5 must be 0.6. So that's going to be 1.6. 75%, well, to convert that to a decimal, if we were multiplying by 100 to make it a percentage, then we just do the inverse. We divide by 100. So they're both going to move down 2 and get to 0.75. Now 7/4, I'll do that over here. The best way to do that is to first make it a mixed number. So I've got 1 whole, which would be 4 of them, and then 3/4 left over. And hopefully you'll agree with that. 3/4 is 0.75, so I'm left with 1.75. So I'll write that in here. And then this one's already a decimal, 1.5. So I've written the question in my book as it was. I've changed them all to decimals underneath there, and then finally I'm going to put them in order. So 0.75 is my smallest. Done that one. Then it's going to be 1.5. Done that one. This is like a steady moving on to go type question. Then I'm going to be left with 1.6. And then finally 1.75. Okay, so everyone's got questions that are similar to that. Then there's some word problems, but if you just take them one step at a time, you should be able to get them. And year 6, that is it for today's maths lesson. Okay, so you are looking at percentages and fractions and decimals, and you're comparing them. Okay, give it a go, year 6, and I look forward to seeing your work in a bit. And I'll see you in the next magnificent, marvellous maths lesson.